How we doing? How we doing? Jassel here. I completed Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice and it was an amazing game. The graphics, the story, combat, and especially the character of Senua were really good. I totally recommend this game. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice was developed by Ninja Theory. Surprisingly, only about 20 people worked on this game, and when released, it was only priced at $30. We follow Senua, a broken Celtic warrior on her quest to rescue the soul of her deceased lover from hell, and also a character suffering with psychosis. She believes that this condition is a curse. This game involves a lot of puzzles, psychological horror, and melee combat, which is a favorite of mine. First things first, I want to talk about the graphics in this game because it's really beautiful, and this game was released back in 2017. I'm currently playing this on PC at the highest preset but without ray tracing as my PC can't maintain a consistent frame rate. Still, everything in the game is stunning. The water, the mud, the light rays all look amazing. The opening scene when the game shows the gates of Helheim and the dragon figure at the top, it's simply breathtaking. I like the game's clean design, which offers no game HUD, providing a more cinematic experience. It is so minimal, in fact, that when I encountered my first fight, the game did not teach me anything about how to fight. I had to pause the game and check the controls. One nitpick I have was sometimes the game applies a chromatic aberration filter, making it hard to see. I understand its purpose as it occurs when Senua is feeling overwhelmed or confused. Sometimes I just didn't like it because it made my head hurts. I wonder if that's part of the game too. The actor Melina Jurgens is exceptional. An interesting fun fact, she wasn't initially an actor for the game. She was a video editor for Ninja Theory. She was used as a stand-in for technical tests, but her performance was so amazing that she ended up winning numerous awards. The character design of Senua is honestly amazing. Her facial expression were so realistic and her movement in combat or when you're just walking around is so fluid. The camera work was executed perfectly to narrate an amazing story. The depth of field was often very wide, causing a blurry background around Senua. Low-key made me feel claustrophobic sometimes. The game is honestly best experienced with headphones. The amazing environmental audio design, including the clashing of swords in sword fights and voices speaking in Senua's head, significantly enhances the gaming experience. In fact, headphones become almost necessary in some later trials. You will definitely be missing out if you don't play this game with headphones. There were moments in the game when all voices were telling me to hurry and I found myself overwhelmed as if I were in Senua's shoes. It was honestly intense at one point. I had to pause the game and remove my headphones just to take a short break. Turning to the gameplay, it's quite linear. You progress from one location to the next and it's pretty short. In my current status as a full-time employee and student, I like the shorter games right now. The game involves a lot of walking, exploring, and listening to various stories and exposition. In the game, you can locate and interact with these lore stones that tell stories about Norse mythology. Each time I encountered these lore stones, I found their stories interesting and I enjoyed finding it. The majority of the time you'll be engaged in a lot of puzzles. The game features doors that can only be opened by locating specific shapes or runes. This is pretty interesting as it can be challenging to find these shapes. They may appear in shadows, overlapping trees, or other random stuff. However, the game does help you with it by making sure it lets you know when you're near these said shapes or runes. Another cool puzzle mechanic involves going through these circular gates that unlocks new locations or open doors, but I gotta admit it can be somewhat complicating. I find myself moving back and forth frequently as I struggle to solve some areas. Another type of puzzle involved aligning what appeared to be a broken glass. At first I was confused, but I persisted in exploring the map to solve it. After some times, I began to see a stair and the voices that I kept hearing told me to focus. Surprisingly, these voices in my head can be very helpful. I want to mention my most favorite part of the game. There were these trials in the middle of the game and they were awesome. They weren't really difficult, yet they were challenging. One trial, which I can't figure out how I solved, involved returning to the same room over and over. Then I started listening to the voices to follow Dillion's voice, and somehow I managed to solve it. I didn't really follow any voice. Another trial required finding runes really fast or else the fire will get you. I died here so many times, but somehow the rod didn't reach Senua's head. However, my favorite trial involved listening to audio cues in the dark. I literally could not see anything, and this was definitely a part of the game where headphones is very useful. It was both fun and challenging. The combat is pretty simple and enjoyable in my opinion. For attacking, you can use either a fast strike or a heavy strike. For defending yourself, you can either block, which would give you a chance to parry most attacks, or evade. Also, there's a melee attack, but I mostly use this when the enemy has a shield. When you parry the attack, Senua does this really cool counter attack where she spins in the air. I think it's so cool. Fights can become complicating when fighting multiple enemies, as it's hard to predict who will attack first. A strategy that works well for me is to position all enemies in front of me and wait for them to initiate the attack. I just wanted to add that the game tells you in the beginning that every time you die, this dark rod will eventually grow, and when this rod reaches Senua's head, then the game is over and all progress will be lost. This was honestly pretty kind of terrifying, a bit, because I don't want to lose all my progress. Knowing this, it made me kind of take the game seriously, and my gameplay became more defensive. I wanted to make sure that I don't die in the game. However, I did die a lot. I'm not sure if that little message in the beginning of the game was a lie. I talked about what I enjoyed about the game, but what about the things I don't like as much? There's not much I didn't like. The story was well paced, and I particularly enjoyed the simplicity of the combat. One minor issue could be that Senua moves somewhat slow while exploring the map, and it could somehow turn into a walking simulator. However, this didn't bother me too much because I was too busy admiring the game's visuals and environment. Also, I wanted more enemy encounters as I felt there was not much combat involved. This was noticeable when walking around the shipwreck on the beach. However, I could be wrong as I only played the game on normal difficulty. In conclusion, the game is excellent. It tells an engaging story that kept my attention throughout the whole entire playthrough. I highly recommend playing this game on 1 or 2 sittings to fully immerse yourself in the experience. This game is a must-play for those looking for a good story, linear progression, simple combat, and beautiful graphics. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.